Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Voices of Portland podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kosminski, and we are on location up at Portland High School, where we had just finished a great panel presentation. And our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, is I consider the head kahuna here, Mr. Bob McDougall, who is actually moderating the panel. So, Bob, what'd you think so far?
I thought it was good. It was nice that we had a little more time to answer more questions. We did this. We started a year ago. This was episode number 2 of the Black History Month panel.
Yep.
And they'd run a little short on time last year, and this year we managed to get through all the questions they wanted.
No, I think it was. I think it was fantastic. You know, I think I did. You're going to be the 5th podcast that we did, and I got some great guests. Gave us a little perspective, but I think everybody enjoyed it. I think it was very informative. I was just telling everybody, it's education is power. You know.
Absolutely. I learn a little bit more every time I do one of these.
Well, it's amazing. You know, you had a new panelist this year, Miss Jasmine. What's her name?
Patty Hall Jamison. She was on the panel last year.
Was she?
I know because I graduated high school with her. She was class of 1980.
Really?
So we go back a long way.
Oh wow. Okay. So, what memory did the panel discussion bring back for you?
Well, I first became aware of Portland history back around 1973 when the Historical Society founded. I was in 5th grade, and I remember sitting at the meetings, and the members of the society were coming and reporting on the demolition of the buildings under the bridge.
Yeah.
And I lived out in the country in Portland. I didn't really know about that side of town, but to hear that there were homes getting taken apart and torn down, that's when I first became aware of it. And it was interesting to see adults with tears in their eyes about losing some of the old homes that were there.
Yeah.
They described some of the building techniques and things they found inside the walls, and it was just quite a revelation. And my interest in town history has been growing ever since.
Wow. Well, as you know, I grew up on the edge of that. I grew up on the end of Perry Avenue, so I was able to witness, and I had a lot of friends. Okay, that we went down and played ball in the streets, but back in the day before the self-storage building, that was the Standard Nat Plant 1, and then we had Standard Nat Plant 2, and then we had a baseball field in between the two, and that's where we used to play ball all the time. As far as that goes. But you had. I can remember vividly, going down in the Lemon Smith store and, Bransfield Avenue and the original Zaz bait shop was down there along with the Bransfield store and True Vine Church. So, I mean, there's a lot of history down there.
Yeah, there certainly is. I'm always marvel at pictures that we get that were taken from the bridge looking down over that neighborhood. And all the buildings you mentioned, you see Zaz and Lemon Smith's store, Gordon's junkyard.
Yeah.
With his crane with the magnet for picking up scrap metal.
Exactly. Charles and Joseph, okay, I can remember going down there. I grew up in town. I worked for the town for 50 years, but putting stuff together, we would always go down and, sift through. We needed a piece of angle iron. We knew where to go, and back in the day, Quonset Salvage was right inside of, Andrea worked for Joseph for years down there.
Yeah, my dad would take us there whenever he was working on a project and needed scrap metal. That's where we'd go.
There you go, and so forth. And they had the scale there, and the trucks, it's amazing with the magnet. I can remember that.
Now that I'm older and I have some perspective on what was going on, it's fascinating to realize that wasn't unique to Portland, that it was going on all over the country. It was a national program.
For sure.
The whole south end of Middletown, when they put in the new Sears and they knocked all those buildings down where Metro Square is now.
Yeah.
Up in Hartford, when they put in Constitution Plaza and got rid of Market Street, it was not uncommon at all.
Yeah, it's called redevelopment, and for good, bad, or indifferent, it happened. I think that was the thing. But again, with a lot of in interviewing people, there are a lot of memories and a lot of history that fond memories, some not so fond memories, but they were memories to be the same.
Absolutely.
So, how long have you been involved? Are you president of the Historical Society? Or?
No, I'm a past president. I joined as a charter member when the society was organized in 1973.
Okay.
When I moved back to town after college, I was invited to join their board. I became a president at some point in the early 2000s, just before we received the Ruth Callender House as our museum.
Yes.
And I stepped up and took over from Pat Seary as our chair of the museum committee,
Yes.
which turned into being museum director.
Yeah.
And I've been pretty involved with the society ever since, doing their heritage calendars, which we've just continued at this point. But
Sure.
we've published a number of books. We worked on the town's 175th anniversary
Yes.
book, which was a big project.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember that.
And
Yeah, for sure.
We're striving to collect, preserve, and share.
Now, Pat Seary, was that Bill Seary's wife?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's a
Was
past
the-
postmaster.
Exactly. I lived up on Homestead.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I remember that well. In fact, I went to school with your sons, and so forth. It's amazing.
Yeah, she ran our first museum room, which was housed in the Portland Library
Yeah.
before we had the museum on Main Street.
Down on the end.
Yeah, we had it next to the Buck Room.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had
yeah.
all of our collection tucked into that room, and
Yeah.
that was the beginning of our computerized inventory. We promised ourselves we wouldn't take anything out of that room that wasn't entered into a spreadsheet.
Uh-huh.
So we started getting all of our records onto the computer.
Wow. Anyway, so tell us a little bit about the museum. What what would people see if they go up to the museum?
Well, Portland has three primary industries that kept it going. It started with the quarries and the shipbuilding.
Yeah.
Our first settler, James Stancliffe, he raised brownstone from the edges of the river and created headstones and things.
Yep.
As the industry grew, the shipyards came into play because the ships were built in Gildersleeve, came
Correct.
down the river, were loaded with brownstone, and sent to New York and Boston, where all the Back Bay and the row houses came from.
Sure. Yeah.
And then all the people at the quarries and shipyards needed to eat, so we had a lot of farming.
Okay.
So those are the three legs of the
the
Portland
stool,
economic
so to
stool,
speak.
so
Yes,
to speak.
yes.
So we have semi-permanent exhibits featuring artifacts from those three industries, talking
Okay.
about the farming in town, the different shipbuilding projects, and the quarry operation. The quarries evolved. There were at one time 4 or 5 different quarry companies, and there
Yeah,
were
yeah.
mergers and acquisitions and all that going on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's quite a story to tell. And now it's
Sure.
the Exploration and Discovery Park.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the history is still there, and it's amazing. I know my dad was selectman, for years with, back in the day and when there were a 3-man selectman board with Johnny Anderson and Ernie Larson and my dad and so forth. And one of the things my dad was so proud of when we had guests over the house, he was proud to go, come on, we got to take a ride. And he always would take them a ride down to show them the quarries, as part of, Portland's heritage.
That was
And
a Portland tour.
Yeah, it is, and so forth. So it's like, wow. Now, the farming industry. Obviously, we had a big tobacco farm. What other farming was?
Both poultry was big. We had a number of large chicken farms,
Yeah,
Strickland's,
Strickland's.
Anderson's,
Yeah.
and then corn and hay were also big
Okay.
for feeding cattle. So we had a couple dairies in town also.
Yeah.
Prouts with their
Milk.
with their automated milk machine next to Edlin's Bakery.
Wow. Yeah, I can remember that.
Yeah, I remember the grocery stores were all closed, but Mom would send you out with Dad at midnight to put coins into the machine to get your quart of
Could you-
milk for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. And you remember another thing of Portland history, Edlin's Bakery.
Oh, yeah.
God, I can remember the eclairs were there. They were awesome.
Absolutely. That's where Fabian's is now, the pizza.
Yeah, exactly, and so forth. But yeah, you're right. And then, of course, right next door you had Portland Electric, which is now Savvy Swap, but they were there for years and years and years.
Before that, it was Waverly Hall, which is where they'd have all the social events for the quarry workers.
Okay, well, that was before my time. I don't remember that, and so, but you had, the bank was, I know Friday nights, I mean, Portland was a hub for shopping, and, a couple of the panelists remember, Friday, everybody got paid on Friday. They would go out to and get their food and get it, but they used to have, it used to be the Riverside Trust Company, the bank there,
Yep.
and so forth, and there. In fact, they had a crosswalk there, and I can remember growing up that Friday nights they always put a cop out there, crossing people under the crosswalk, and so you had the Portland supermarket, and
Yep.
Don DeMar was across the way there, and that was that was awesome.
And you must remember Margaret's.
Oh, Margaret's department store, yeah. And then down under the, down on the next to Silver Street, you used to have Kirkins, which was a dry goods store. We used to get all my shoes down there, as far as that goes. But and you had obviously Tripp's Diner. So there's a lot of history there.
Speed's Diner.
Speed's, Tripp's, and then of course you had Portland Plumbing. Leo at Portland Plumbing. I remember going up and working for the town. We needed a fitting for something that we had for the water department. We go down there, and Leo, he had the bins in there. You go, okay, we got a 1/2 by 3/4 black iron elbow, whatever. You go down there and get it, whatever. So,
the good old days.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. So, and then we had, obviously back in the day it was the Nino's drugstore, which is now where the poodle parlor is.
Yep.
But and then you had Brownstone Pharmacy, which was the Shauna Boys, as far as that goes. So, yeah, a lot of history.
Yeah, I got to meet a lot of those people. In my senior year of high school, I was the business editor for the yearbook, and I couldn't get all my classmates to sell ads, so I went out and knocked on most of the doors myself.
Yeah, and don't forget Marilla Hurricane's dance studio.
Oh, absolutely.
I think every girl was part of the majorettes in the Memorial Day parade. You can remember that.
Oh, yeah. We've got good pictures of that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but before then, do you remember what was in Marie Leroy Kane's before it was the dance studio?
The building was originally Valley Mills.
Well, I can remember.
And Emery Photography was in there.
That's what I remember. Camera shop.
Yep.
And so forth. And there used to be a laundromat in the back there. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
That building's gone now.
Yeah, no, it's part of the Pocket Park.
Exactly, right next to Liberty Bank on Freestone.
Yeah, exactly. But it's amazing. So whatever. But that what was Liberty Bank was actually up next to where the dentist office is, next to Margaret's department store originally. What was the Liberty Bank building?
It was a residence.
It was a residence?
Yeah, one of the quarry owners, Hall, one of the Halls lived there.
Okay.
There's actually a marker on the front of the building with the date.
Okay. See, there you go.
Yeah, the bank contacted us a couple of years ago saying, do you have any pictures of this house before it was a bank? Because we'd like to do some artwork for the inside. And
nice.
We're still hunting for a picture of the pre-bank building.
Okay, no kidding. All right, well, we'll put this out there on the air, and hopefully somebody can come up with something to help you out there.
Sounds good.
Whatever, fantastic. So, all right, Bob, thank you so much for sharing part of your wisdom and part of your knowledge. And again, I appreciate you doing a great job moderating this. I think it got bigger since last year. And I think it's going to get bigger since next year, too.
Yeah, I'll just end with one final plug about our big project at the Historical Society these
days.
That. In 1821, there was a general store up in Gildersleeve. It was the Gildersleeve store. It served the shipyard. And back in those days, that's where most of the commerce came in because there were no bridges across the river yet. Everything came into Gildersleeve Landing. In 1855, the building was replaced with what we know now as Portland Floor and Wall, the brick building.
Yep.
The old wooden building was moved about 1/4 mile up the street just across from Gildersleeve School, and that's been gifted to the Historical Society by the Larson family about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And we've been making arrangements to have it reassembled in back of the Calendar House Museum. We're hoping for an opening maybe in another year and a half.
Nice.
And they just completed the deconstruction of the building. We've got blueprints. All the timbers have been numbered, and we're planning to put it back together. So stay tuned for more on the Gildersleeve store.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Fantastic. Well, again, it's all part of Portland history, and it's all part of you making it all happen. So, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob McDougall is in the house and giving us his knowledge base of a lot of town history. So, Bob, thanks so much for taking time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. That is all.
This episode of the Voices of Portland Project was supported by funding through Connecticut Humanities. Connecticut Humanities is an independent, nonprofit affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities and connects people to the humanities through grants, partnerships, and collaborative programs. Their projects, administration, and program development are supported by state and federal matching funds, community foundations, and gifts from private sources. Learn more by visiting cthumanities.org. In addition to Connecticut Humanities, the Portland Historical Society, the Town Committee on Solidarity, and the Portland Public Library, this project was made possible through the support of the Town of Portland, the Portland Public Schools, Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance, the Friends of the Portland Library, and the tireless work of our planning team community volunteers, David Rohn and Barbara Shaw.